What you are hearing is not just a chant. It is a fragment of one of the oldest surviving texts on earth. A text carried for thousands of years, not on paper, but on human breath. This is the Rig Veda, the earliest of the four Vedas, and one of humanity's most ancient living collections of sacred poetry. The Rig Veda is a collection of more than 1,000 hymns called Sūktas, arranged into 10 books known as Maṇḍalas. Most of what we know today comes through the Śākala Recension, a carefully preserved version handed down by specific Vedic lineages. These hymns are composed in an early form of Sanskrit, older even than the language of the Mahabharata and the Ramayana, a linguistic fossil that links India's past to a wider Indo-European world that once stretched from the Ganga to Greece. But the Rig Veda is not a book in the modern sense. It is a universe of songs, prayers, invocations, riddles, creation myths, and sharp philosophical questions, composed and recited by ancient seers known as rishis. These were not authors chasing fame. They were families of seers, the Angirasas, the Bharadvajas, the Vishvamitras, and others, for whom sound itself was sacred. To them, poetry was a technology of the sacred, a precise way to align human life with cosmic order. When did all this begin? Traditional timelines often push the Veda back into a mythic age. Modern linguistics and archaeology are more cautious. Most scholars place the main composition of the Rig Veda roughly between 1500 and 1200 BCE, over 3,000 years ago, making it one of the oldest religious texts still in continuous use. What do these ancient hymns actually talk about? At first glance, the Rig Veda is crowded with gods. Agni, the fire, crackling on the altar and carrying offerings to the heavens. Indra, the storm-wielding warrior who shatters the dragon of drought and releases the rivers. Varuṇa, the watchful lord of cosmic law and moral order. Uṣas, the tender pink of dawn returning every morning. Soma, a plant, a drink, a mysterious god of inspiration and ecstasy. Yet beneath this many-coloured pantheon, the hymns often hint at one underlying reality. A famous verse declares, "Truth is one. The wise speak of it in many ways." Here, in one line, we feel the tension between many gods and one truth, between ritual worship and philosophical reflection. Some hymns are almost cinematic creation myths. The Purusha Sukta imagines a cosmic being whose sacrifice gives rise to the world, the elements, even social order. The haunting Nasadiya Sukta, the hymn of creation, does something different. It asks questions. What existed before creation? Was there a before at all? Did the universe arise from desire, from heat, from an unfathomable ocean? And, in a startling twist, it wonders whether even the highest God truly knows how it all began. Other verses, like the famous Gayatri Mantra, distill the Vedic vision into a single luminous prayer, invoking the divine light to awaken human understanding. In this way, the Rig Veda is not just a manual for rituals. It is an early laboratory of doubt and wonder, a place where myth, poetry, and philosophy still live side by side. For most of its history, the Rig Veda was never written down. It survived on memory, voice, and relentless discipline. In traditional gurukuls, teachers trained students to memorize not just the words, but the exact pitch, rhythm, and accent of every syllable. The same text was recited in multiple patterns, samhita, padapatha, kramapatha, and others, straight, split, and interwoven, like weaving and unweaving a garland of sound. These methods worked as a built-in error-checking system. If one pattern drifted, another would reveal the mistake. Because of this intricate web of recitation, many scholars consider the Vedic oral tradition one of the most precise human hard drives ever created. When you hear a well-trained Vedic chant today, you are listening to a sound pattern that has crossed 3,000 years with astonishing accuracy. The Rig Veda also stands at the source of later Vedic literature. Its hymns are the raw material that other Vedas reshape. The Sama Veda turns many Rig Vedic verses into melodies, stretched and refined for singing in ritual. The Yajur Veda rearranges lines into formulas for sacrificial action, what to say and when and how. The Atharva Veda adds another layer, folk prayers, healing charms, and reflections on everyday fears and hopes. In that sense, the Rig Veda is the original songbook from which much of later Vedic religion and philosophy takes its themes. Today, the Rig Veda is many things at once. For a priest standing before a sacred fire, it is a living scripture, still chanted at weddings, initiations and festivals. For a Sanskrit scholar in a quiet library, it is a historical and linguistic treasure, offering clues about early Indo-Aryan life, its clans, migrations, conflicts, and dreams. For seekers around the world, reading it in translation on a screen, it is a doorway into questions of unity, consciousness, and cosmic order. One and the same text flows through village courtyards, university seminar rooms, and private meditation spaces, like a single river branching into many channels. In the end, the Rig Veda is not only India's oldest scripture, it is a 3,000-year-old conversation about reality, preserved in sound. Long before printing presses, long before digital archives and cloud storage, human beings were already asking the largest questions. Who are we? Where did we come from? What holds this vast universe together? And they answered not with cold formulas, but with hymns to fire and dawn, to storm and star, with verses that still rise like a chant into the morning sky. That enduring river of sound is the Rig Veda, the voice of the first hymns, still whispering across millennia, inviting us to listen, to question, and to wonder. To know more about the Vedas, like, share, and subscribe.